Guys, welcome to Todd Talks today. We're going to talk about TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. And that's a journey I've been on for 12 years now. I've been very fortunate to have good doctors. I've not had to go through a lot of mess that some people have had to go through. First off, let me start by saying I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse practitioner. This is not medical advice. This is for conversation and entertainment only. However, I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express, and I do give my wife CPR and medical treatment as needed. Noted. All right, guys. The biggest issue with TRT right now, with guys getting on TRT, which it's a shame that it is easier for a female who is transitioning into a male to get on TRT than it is for a male that is deficient. And there are several issues that can cause deficiency. Stress, trauma, a lot of vets that have been in the Army and been under, or been in the service rather, and that have been under a lot of stress and been in seen battle, that PTSD and a lot of anxiety and things can be mitigated by TRT, and most of those guys are deficient. But the issue there is not all the doctors are on the same playing field. Some of them want to go by the reference ranges, which that's a whole nother story right now, but just to touch on that briefly to let you guys know what's happening. As you see, our younger generation right now, a lot of younger guys, they're holding more belly fat. Well, as males, our estrogen receptors are held in our belly fat. So the more belly fat we have, the more estrogen receptors we have, which means there's more conversion from our testosterone to estrogen. And once estrogen outranks the testosterone, it can cling to it and keep it from being available for your body to use. And of course, breast cancer and things like that come from very high estrogen, and men can have breast cancer. So the big issue is getting some of the belly fat off so we have less receptors to compete with. But back on the subject with the doctors, some of them want to stay in that range. Well, right now what they're doing is they're taking an average from obese and sick people who are already deficient, and they're saying this is our average number. So right now they're trying to say that 250 nanograms per picoliter is average. Well, that's not average. That's about average for a 90-year-old man who's not on TRT. And guys, there's so many benefits that are health-wise. God intended us to have higher testosterone. In fact, our great-grandfathers, they had testosterone 3 times higher than we do right now because of a lot of the environmental estrogens that are in our environment that are working against us. But getting back to the averages, so that's what doctors are leaning toward, saying, okay, if you're 250 or over, then you're good. Well, let me tell you, I've been at 500 and felt like a total bag of dog crap. Okay. And everybody's going to feel different at different levels. So there's no set level and there's no magical level for that. The benefit is having a doctor that will allow you to play with your ranges and dosages to see where you feel best at without any ill effects upon your health. I've been very fortunate to do that. I have been anywhere. I started at 197 for my total, which when they came in and told me that, the guy goes, you don't even have enough testosterone in your system to convert to estrogen. And guys, estrogen is where males we get our heart health, we get our bone density, and we get our libido and our sex drive from estrogen. DHT, which is another conversion point, testosterone either converts to DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone, or estrogen. Okay, DHT is where we get our service from on our sexual needs. That's where our erections come from and things like that. So both of those are very important. So if you're deficient in testosterone, you're not going to get equal amounts of either one of those to help you health-wise. Um, so I wasn't having any effects. I wasn't having any side effects or showing low T symptoms other than I was working out like an animal and I couldn't get rid of belly fat. I was a little tired in the evening, which is normal for someone low on TRT. That's one of the first signs. If you feel like you need a nap every day after lunch, you're probably low. If you get tired throughout the day, that's not just aging, guys, and don't accept that as saying, oh, well, I'm just getting older, I'm supposed to feel like that. No, you're not supposed to feel like dog crap. You're not. Right now, I run my levels, and my total is around 1,200, which is about like a 25-year-old athlete. I feel great. My blood pressure's low. I have no ill effects from it. And actually, if you talk to a specialist, which that's what I use, he will tell you that's where you need to be. And, that's the thing is doctors should throw these reference ranges out the window. And the first question should be, well, how do you feel? Okay. If you don't feel good, let's check your T levels. Let's check some hormone levels. We'll see where we're at. And that gets into the issue of the doctors. And guys, I'm not bashing doctors. They're very well needed, but there are guys that are general practitioners and they don't know enough about hormones to understand. And some of them will even be honest with you and say, I wouldn't even write you a prescription if you were low because I don't know what I'm doing. And see, therefore, you have a total testosterone, you have a free testosterone. Well, the free is what your body has available to use for what it's supposed to use it for energy, for strength, for gaining muscle, for sexual functions, for bone densities, things like that. Your total testosterone is a total number of what's in your system. Now, let me give you an example of that. I could be at 1,200 total, and my free is 200. Okay. Well, there's other hormones like estrogen, SHGB, and there's some other things that can tie your testosterone up. So it's in your blood system, but it's bound and cannot be used. So there's things that you can do like frequencies of shots. You can change frequencies of shots and things like that to control your SHGB and get those down where you need to be, where you're freeing up more testosterone. And that's what we need. So therefore, that's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is doctors don't always know exactly what they're doing in the hormone world, and you need to have one that does, or you're not going to get off to a good start. You're not going to have a good finish. Get on this subject that, I try to share my story of TRT with everybody that is my age or could possibly be, for whatever reason, deficient. And what I get from most people, especially older guys, and I'm 58, that are older than me, they say, well, it causes heart disease and prostate cancer. Well, let me explain that to you. That came from a study that was done around about 1943 that we're just now getting more research done to prove that that was a lie. There were 3 people in that study. They did not check any of those guys for heart disease or prostate cancer before they started the study. So they started off with 3 of them. One of them died from heart disease. One of them died from prostate cancer. So that whole study that we've been telling for decades now that it causes prostate cancer and heart disease was done from one person. Okay, well, that person could have been a hyper responder that didn't need a whole lot of testosterone anyway to get the benefits from it. So the research now is proving that heart disease and prostate cancer comes from a low deficiency of testosterone. And another thing is, anytime people want to say that, I don't want to argue with people, but here's what I say to them. Well, if that causes prostate cancer and heart disease, I wonder how any of us live past 25 years old when our natural levels there's been people tested that their natural levels are over 4,000 in their 20s. So, I mean, that has nothing to do with it. Nothing. And so, guys, there's a difference between hormone replacement and hormone optimization. And that goes for men and women. Hormone replacement is when I just sprinkle some pixie dust of hormones on your system and go, boom, there you are, you're on hormone replacement. You should feel better. Hormone optimization is where you feel like you did in your 20s or 30s without any ill side effects. Guys, you know, if you need a knee replacement, or you have a headache, or you have heartburn, you take something to mitigate that. So why would we go through life not sleeping good, being tired, and feeling like crap all the time, and deteriorating our health over a long period of time when it can be eliminated? The first shot I took, that day I went home, I worked out in the gym, and I could have literally just stayed in the gym all day long and threw weights around, and I wasn't tired. But the biggest thing I can remember was the next morning when I woke up, I was like, man, I have not slept like that in 20 or 30 years. I mean, I feel better right now than I did when I was in my 30s. And I mean, like I said, I'm 58 years old. I do weight train 3 to 5 days a week. I do try to watch my diet and eat well. But guys, we got to take care of ourselves anyway. But things like this, testosterone has been known to help people get off of antidepressants, blood pressure medication. It reduces insulin sensitivity, so it can help diabetes. So, I mean, that's why Big Pharma is pushing back so hard not to approve people for this, because it's taking money out of their pocket. I literally pay $8 for a 10 ml vial of testosterone at the grocery store pharmacy. After my insurance, it's $8, and that lasts me about 2 months, 8 weeks. And I'm on 220 milligrams of testosterone a week. I used to take 3 shots a week. I would divide that up, that 220 milligrams, I would divide that up in 3 equal shots, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And by doing more shots, the benefits to that is to keep your blood levels stable, and you don't have peaks and troughs. If a doctor wants you to do once a week shot or every 2 weeks, you need to find another doctor, because they don't know what they're doing. But recently I have found, after, our receptors change as we age, as anything else in our body does. I have found I've went back to 2 shots a week. I'm taking that 1 dose and splitting it into 2. And so I'm getting a little bit more conversion into the estrogen and the DHT. That's one way of controlling estrogen if you're kind of a hyper responder to a shot, is more frequent injections will keep your estrogen low. And because you really don't want estrogen blockers. And that's another thing that some of these clinics are doing. They're cookie cutting everybody. So you walk in the door and they check you and they go, yep, here's your 200 milligrams of testosterone for the week, and here's your 5 milligrams of estrogen blockers. Well, if you need those because you're a hyper responder, then okay, you need that. But 95% of the people don't need those. And what an estrogen blocker does is it blocks your estrogen. So you got less estrogen in your system, so you have less sex drive, you have less benefits for bone density and heart health. Okay, there's been doctors that have, of course, we're getting in the bodybuilding world, and we're getting ready to talk about some of that stuff. But pro bodybuilders that take big, huge doses, like what I would take for 2 months, they'll do in 1 week. Okay, they're going to have a high conversion to estrogen, so they take some of those blockers. But some of those guys are taking so many of them that when they go to the doctors and they do a DEXA scan to see their bone density, they tell them, you're a 30-year-old man, you've got the bone density of a 90-year-old man. So, I mean, there again, you balance that out by cutting back on your shots a little bit, the amount, doing them a little more frequent, and just trying to balance out. It's all in a balance. And there's an estrogen marker on our blood charts that kind of gives you a range, high or low, and it's like 20 to 40. Okay, that also came from the bodybuilding world, because estrogen will cause us to retain a little bit of body water. If you're not competing, you don't need to worry about it. It's not going to be that big of a difference for you. So I've had my estrogen as high as 100. And like I said, they claim the range is from 20 to 40. I've had mine up to 100, 110, but my total testosterone was at 1,200. So, and I felt great. So guys, one thing that's really important, I've talked to a lot of people that said, well, my insurance won't pay for this. Well, it will, but your doctor has to diagnose it as hypogonadal 1 or 2. I'm not going to get into the specifics of those, but basically what's happened in your body is we have things in the pituitary from our brain to our testicles, and we have hormones in between the hormone scale that basically communicate. One communicates from your nuts to your head, the other one from your head to your nuts. And if you're deficient, it says, hey, we need to make some. Or if we're good, it says we don't need that. So therefore, that's why some people say this. They go, well, I don't want to go get tested and start that stuff because I'll be on it the rest of my life. If you're deficient, you will be deficient all your life. Don't waste your money on these testosterone boosters. They're junk. They're snake oil. They don't do anything for you. A majority of the time that a man is deficient, he has either had a hard hit to the head, like a concussion, playing any kind of sports, or a kick to the gonads that was really hard, or you've been through some kind of super stressful situation like combat. So therefore, I mean, you're going to be deficient anyway. So if you're going to be deficient all your life, why not take something to mitigate that? If you've got to be on it the rest of your life, so what? I had a discussion with my brother one time. He was like, well, you know, that causes prostate cancer. It causes heart disease. I said, but it doesn't. And I can prove that with some research. But let me explain the difference it's made in my life. If you were to tell me, if you continue to take what you're doing right now, you're going to take 10 years off your life, I would continue to do so, because the quality of life I have right now is better than the quantity of life without testosterone. And so therefore, I'm getting back to the story. I'm chasing rabbits a little bit, guys, excuse me. But the insurance will pay, but a doctor has to explain that you are hypogonadal 1 or hypogonadal 2. And so therefore, again, if a doctor doesn't really know what they're doing, they don't even understand any of that stuff. They just go, yeah, here's your prescription, and you go and it's $100 or $200. It's, you know, so you can get that taken care of. There again, you got to have a doctor that knows what they're doing. TRT clinics, for the most part, are a good place to start. That's where I started. I started at Low T Center in Gun Barrel 12 years ago. And, but what I ended up doing was at that point in time, they were brand new here, and they were only going to get my testosterone up to 500. And then they told me that. And so I still didn't feel as good as I should. So I went to another doctor, which allowed me to play with some levels. And guys, like I said, I've been anywhere from 197 to 1,500, because 1,500 is as high as the test will go. So I was greater than 1,500. Excuse me. At that level, at 1,500 plus, I felt as bad as I did when I was low. So yes, there's a sweet spot there. And guys, that's why I'm saying you got to play around with it a little bit and have a doctor that's lenient enough to let you do so, because I found that 10 milligrams was the difference in my sweet spot, feeling fabulous and not feeling fabulous. 10 milligrams. That's nothing. Think about that. Another thing is some supplements to take, whether you're on testosterone or not, for men and women. Magnesium. You need 500 to 1,000 milligrams of magnesium every day. Best to take at nighttime. There are several different kinds of magnesium. There's magnesium threonate, which will help you sleep more, and that's its primary purpose. But glycinate will help you as well, and it's a lot cheaper. And then there's magnesium citrate, which is probably the cheapest one, and that's great if you're constipated. You can take 2 or 3 of those things and you won't be. If you're ever on painkillers for a while, but due to a surgery or something, load up on the magnesium every day, and you won't have that constipation issue. So D3, you need D3. You need 5,000 to 10,000 units a day. Okay, and people say, oh, well, I'm out in the sun in the summertime. My sister's out in the sun all the time. She lives in Houston, Texas. She's dark as you can imagine. She's out in her flower beds all the time. She's deficient. 83% of the United States is deficient right now. And let me explain that to you without getting in a big tangent. The sun blockers that we've been putting on, the sunscreen, it is covering your receptors up where that your natural body does not convert sunlight to D3. So therefore, you use that stuff enough, you will not get the conversion you need. So you will be deficient. So it's good to help. Plus, when we did the C19 thing, and I've got to be careful about what I word, how I word things, but when the dreaded C19 deal was going on, 2019, they had hundreds of studies proving that D3, large doses of D3, were keeping people from getting sick. In fact, there were some doctors that were even giving patients as much as, they were telling them, take 100,000 units before you come in for surgery. So, and none of those people ever got that. So that's important to take. And D3 is not really a vitamin. It's actually a steroid. It actually helps keep your hormones balanced. It helps with bone density and heart health, along with D3. K2 and D3 together have been proven to remove plaque and reverse hardening of the arteries. So you need at least 5,000 units to 10,000 units of D3 a day, and at least 90 to 180 micrograms of K2. Do not buy the ones that are together because you're not getting enough. Buy them separate. It's cheaper and it's better. Also, creatine. Creatine monohydrate is one of the most researched sports supplements in the history of sports medicine. And what it does is it actually helps you hold water in the muscle, not in your body, in the muscle. So your muscles are fuller, they're rounder. You do get a little bit of strength out of it. But what they have found out in the last few years is it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So right now, they have already proven, and it's more and more studies are coming out every day, and this is going to be common knowledge soon. It helps with dementia, Alzheimer's. They're taking elderly patients who have had head injuries and giving them creatine, and they're recovering faster. They're reversing Alzheimer. They're reversing dementia. And creatine comes from red meat, okay? To get 10 grams of creatine a day, you'd have to eat about 2 pounds of red meat. Well, very few of us are doing that. So there again, there's another supplement. It's a powdered form. You can buy it in pill form. Don't fall for the gimmick of they've got another one it's not monohydrate. It's in pill form, and it says their claim to fame is they won't bloat you. It won't make you hold water. It's junk, and it doesn't work as good. So guys, creatine is very important, very important. It's cheap. You can buy a year's worth for 40 bucks. And I mean, you just mix it in some water, put it in your coffee, drink it, and boom, you're done. So I don't want to drag this out any longer than I plan to. But this is my actual first longer podcast. I got a lot of shorts on my channel, but I'm looking forward to seeing more. And I'm not always serious, guys. I like to joke. I like to have a good time. And this channel is designed not just for men, but men and women. But women might not find some of the information very valuable. But guys, we're going to talk about relationships with our wives, relationships with God. I love aquariums. That's my hobby. We'll get into that a little bit. Just several different things. Diet, supplements, PEDs, peptides. I just want I love to share what I know with people. And, you know, we're iron sharpens iron, men. We're here to help each other, make each other better men. So I hope you enjoyed the channel. Remember to share, like, and comment, and let me know what you might want to talk about, and if you have any questions. I also have a link posted on my description for hostage tape, which is a tape to help for sleep apnea. I have severe sleep apnea, and I bought one of the best CPAPs you can get, and 14 masks to go with it, and I could not wear it. I have TMJ, my jaws are equal, so I had to kind of push my jaw back to get a good seal, and then once I fell asleep, my mouth opened up, I filled my mask full of slobber. By the time I got up and got all that cleaned up, I was mad and couldn't go to sleep. So I just did without it for a while, and then one day I heard about the hostage tape. I tried it, and I would have bet you my life that I would have not been able to wear that tape, but I wore it all night long, and I woke up, and it took about 3 days of good sleep for me to feel like $1,000,000. But I've got my link in there. There's a discount code already in on the link, and give it a try, guys. It's money in the bank, I promise. So you all have a great day. Be blessed, and I'll see you soon.